Did you already train this morning, or what's on the schedule for today?
I'm heading to Brisbane tonight actually, because the Brisbane Track Classic, the 1500's on tomorrow. So yeah, it's just sort of like packing a little bit and yeah, it's all, in and out really, like off to Brisbane tonight and then coming back Sunday morning. So
Yeah, no,
yeah.
awesome, man. I'm so glad. Like we were just talking about it before I hit record, but for those of you listening, me and Isaac, I reckon, have been trying to organise a podcast for about the last 12 months. Adam, his coach, messaged me and he's like, "Hey, I got a great bloke for your podcast. A couple of funny stories to tell as well." He goes, "So reach out." And then for whatever reason, me and you, we haven't had the best luck. I've just been watching your progression take place over the last 12 months. So I'm kind of excited about the fact that we didn't get to do one earlier, because it means we've got a whole heap more to talk about right now. But mate, it's been a bit of a wild ride for you the last 12 months. Hey, the progress it's sort of blown my mind. How's your headspace with it all?
Yeah, no, the progress has definitely come a long way. Yeah, probably like the last 12 months especially. Yeah, because like I only joined Adam's group, like Team Tempo, back in like November 2020. So, I've only been part of the group for about 18 months. And like as soon as I joined, like I knew that it like that environment was what was going to make me better. But then yeah, it probably took a few months for like things to click. And then yeah, Adam's brilliant like that. Like, yeah, just the last 12 months, each performance sort of builds on the next one. You get that belief a little bit more. But yeah, like I definitely knew I could do what I've done in the last 12 months, but I wasn't ever sure that, I'd get there. So it's nice to actually sort of, have those goals and then tick them off. Yeah.
It must be unreal. I get so jealous and a little sentimental, because I was in South Australia in 2006. That's where I first met Adam. I just started being coached by Sean Crichton, and Sean said, "Oh, I've got an athlete over in South Australia." And as amazing as Sean was as a coach, I could tell straight away that Adam had something special, because I think I was 19 at the time. He was 25, and he sort of just took me under his wing. So I knew he had a whole heap of knowledge. And at the time, I was mind blown by the fact he had ran 3:49 for 1500. That got me all excited. But mate, you look at the group now, not even just the girls, but the boys as well. Who have you got? You got Maddie Clark, yourself, Max Stevens.
Dan
Who
Canala, you throw him in there. Adam Goddard as well. He's a junior that's sort of up and coming. And then we've also got, I think he just won the under 18 1500 at Nationals, Jono Harris, and he's a bit of a man child, but he's one to watch out for. He's very impressive. Yeah.
Man, I might have to have a chat to him. I still get a little bit awkward around man childs, because I had to race a few of them when I was 15, and it terrified me. It terrified me how quickly they ran. Mate, what's the what is the current setup? So obviously you've got yourself onto a real sweet thing, and you just sort of touched on the quality of the group that you've got there. But walk me through some of the dynamics there, because I know Maddie Clark and Max Stevens are a few years older than you. Are they playing mentor role? Because I know now you're running faster than them in a lot of events. So it's going to be a weird dynamic taking place out there on the training track, is it?
Yeah. Like I think, so I live with a couple of the other athletes from Team Tempo. So like Lockie Scott, Caitlin Adams and Lachlan Heyne. And so again, I'm the youngest in the house, but we all sort of add a little bit to the group dynamic, and everyone's got their own little individual bit that sort of makes, the house what it is. And then I think it's the same out at the group as well with Team Tempo. So, I might be a bit younger than, Max and Clarkey, but that just means that I've got a lot more that I can learn from them, because they've been through that stage that I've been through, that sort of, trial period where you're going from a junior to a senior and everything that entails. So I try and learn as much as I can from them, but then because I'm younger as well, I can sort of, get away with it a little bit more. And I just try and be, like running's about as fun as it gets. So, like when things get a bit serious, someone's got to lighten the mood a little bit. So, that's, not saying that's my role and that's what I do all the time, but, that's something that, I think I can contribute to the group. And we all just sort of push each other in training as well, but also hold each other back when we need to. So, the way I used to train before I joined the group was I had to win every rep. And like, you know, if you're doing, say, 2400s, I had to win 20 of them. And if I won 19, you know, that was, you know, I'd stuffed up the session. And then training with guys like Max and Clarkey, like it's taken me about 18 months, but, you know, like we're sort of like, we take turns, and I'm happy to take the sit, and I get more out of my training as a result. But then at the same time, when we need to push it a bit, then yeah, you know, I'm there off the front. We all have bits that we give and take, I think.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point, man. And there's a lot of runners of all levels who listen to this podcast, and I get the vibe that there's quite a few new athletes, and that's one thing that a lot of athletes struggle with is that ability to be able to go, okay, like I'm really going to work hard now, but also that ability to say, okay, no, it's quite easy. It's really important I pull it back, because it sounds like you understand as well as anyone. And maybe, what are you, 23?
22, yeah.
22, yeah. So I reckon you're a couple of years ahead of me, because I actually, no, moving to Adelaide, maybe when I was about 19 or 20, I started to appreciate that difference in, or just the strength that comes with holding yourself back a little bit as well. But was there a particular, like, was there a change of headspace for you that made you realize that, all right, this is obviously a sport of longevity. The improvement doesn't just come in those really hard sessions, but also in tapering it back? Because I don't know much about your history with injuries, or is that just pretty much been highlighted to you, the importance of backing it off a little bit from the boys in the group?
Yeah, I think my sort of journey through like juniors is probably like the classic, like for want of a better term, like that classic rep runner or someone that's new to running. And I, you know, lace up my shoes, head out the front door, and just run as hard as I could for as long as I could. And then you know, that does get you better really quickly. But it sort of turned into me. You know, I was 16 or 17, and I was doing every day really hard. So, you know, I was doing my, you know, I'd have my sessions on like Monday and Wednesday where you're doing flat out track intervals. But then on Tuesday and Thursday, I was going out the door and doing like my 12K runs at 320 pace. And then my, you know, my long runs on Sunday, I'd be doing, you know, 18Ks in an hour. And then, yeah, then I was ending up injured all the time. So I'd have these patches where when I was competing, things were going really well because I was so fit, because I was smashing myself. But then I'd just get injured and have to start from square one again. And so, look, I don't think I'm ever going to live this down, but it was just before that tattooed race that I did back in 2019. So it was a national 5K, and I'd pretty much missed the whole season because I'd had a tibial stress fracture. And so, you know, I had like a real small chance at, you know, actually getting myself right for nationals. I thought, oh, stuff it. Everyone's telling me to run slow. Like, maybe I do just hold myself back and take it a bit easier. And yeah, once that sort of clicked, then I was like, geez, this actually works. Like, I'm the biggest advocate for it. Like, you know, easy days are like, for anyone listening at home, like if you're new to running, take it as easy as possible, because that's the way that you get better and you stay in it for the long term.
It's such a great point, man. It's such a great point. It's funny. I always tell the athletes I coach that your easy days is a chance to go out and run at a pace you'd be super embarrassed to be caught running at. So if you go out and you see a mate and you're not embarrassed to be seen running at that pace, you're going a little bit too fast. And it's so important, isn't it? Because obviously I'll talk to you about the structure of your training and stuff in a minute, but I know a lot of athletes out there will do sort of 2 or even 3 really hard sessions, or 2 pretty hard sessions and a decent session. But just that recovery period in between, like, you're not going to be able to hit that quality kind of work ethic if on the Wednesday runs and the Friday runs or whatever you're having your easy days on I like what you were saying you did when you were a younger guy, before you had sort of broken through in the knowledge department of the running world, going out and just smashing yourself. But it's, how true is it, man, that the easiest thing to do is just feel like improvement only comes through that. No improvement comes through the rest. But mate, I wish if there was sort of one lesson that I could implant on everyone I work with, it's because the distance running world, we're a little bit OCD. Like, we're good at going out and doing the training, but we're not so good at going, all right, well, today's an easy day, but it's because that offers benefits to my actual running performance in the long term. It's a really good point, man. Dude, I actually, it's the first time we've talked, so I don't know a lot about your history. All I know about you is some of your PBs, and I reckon even a few of those have been done up recently, so I might be out of touch. But how did you get involved with Team Tempo? What inspired the move to go over with Adam? obviously now we know him. He's anyone who's looking for a coach, I always say, mate, he's your man. But I'm always curious to find out why people go to Adelaide rather than Melbourne, which was always like a pretty hot option for a lot of up and comers.
Yeah. So I've always lived in Adelaide, and so I was getting coached by Peter Dean. So he was a coach through Pembroke, one of the schools here in Adelaide, and I'd been with him since I was about 13. And then, probably back in 2020, I'd got work at the running company, which was just to help me, get through uni. So again, there's plenty of running companies across Australia, but yeah, I was one in Adelaide, and then I was working with Caitlin Adams there, and I was sort of I was looking to move out, and she said, oh, I'm moving into this spot, and so then I was like, cool, like that sounds good. So I moved in with her, and then moved in, like I said, with Lockie, and so all three of them were with Team Tempo, and I wasn't. So I was still training with Peter, and I just realized that, like, I sort of realized, I was talking to them about their training, and again, I was ending up still injured, and then I was looking at how they were running. I'm like, actually, what they're doing works, and it makes sense. And so I just thought, like, why not? Like Adam, like he's got the track record, and I wanted new training partners, and that just, it just seemed right at the time. And obviously, like, it was a difficult decision moving from a coach that I've had for 7 or 8 years, and we'd had achieved a fair bit together. But yeah, it was a bit of that, like, jump in the deep end and be like, well, I think this is the right thing for me, but I'm only going to know if I try it. And so and I think, like, funnily enough, me and Adam had actually we had a bit of an interaction probably about 6 months earlier, before I'd said, oh, can I join, where he might have mentioned this to you. But that as distance running tends to be, it gets a bit political, and a few coaches don't get on, and so I had written some, like, in hindsight, rather unsavory things about him in an application to Athletics SA. But then we'd sort of had a meeting, and I bought him a bottle of wine as an apology, and I realized as well, it was like he's actually not the bad guy that everyone in South Australia makes him out to be. And I was like just the time that he offered me was like really gracious and generous, and then that's probably what kickstarted the group's actually got something good going for them as well. So it was probably like a 6-month lead up, where just that seed was planted, and then it took moving into a house with 3 other Team Tempo athletes and seeing what they were doing, and then from there I joined, and I haven't looked back.
That's awesome, man. It's interesting you say that. It's interesting. Adam is he's one of the best mates you could have, and one of the best coaches you could have, in the sense that once you get past the fact that he's going to tell you exactly what he thinks of the situation, and he's got your best interests at heart, and he's not trying to hurt you, he's trying to help you. I think it's I feel like that quality in a person is really misunderstood, isn't it? Like so many of us, and probably myself in too many degrees, are probably not open enough and honest enough with some people that I should be. Whereas with Adam, because he wanted to say, especially with my running, but not even just limited to my running, just various areas of my life when I moved there, he pulled me aside. He's like, look, Tice, I don't know if anyone's talked to you about this, but I'm going to tell you right now, you can do this better. And the good thing is you can have the chat back to him and go, I disagree. And he'll go, okay, convince me you're right. And I go, okay, well, I'll do my best. Then you can, and he, as you said, he gives you all the time in the world to be able to navigate it. But I think when you're not close to a person like that, or you haven't had the time to really get to know it can be quite intimidating, quite confronting. So I think that's probably a part of his character, which is really misunderstood. But his athletes who actually know him personally know how well he's got the best interests at heart. And now, man, like it's so interesting, isn't it? Like, as you said, you noticed the track record he has, it speaks for itself. You can have all the talent in an athlete in the world, but if you're not being properly guided through your training. And one thing I loved about Adam as well, and still do, he's got a great knowledge on mindset, just the psychology of performance. And I was curious to pick your brain, because I was a couple of years younger than you, as I said, when I first met him. And that was one area that I think he really helped me with. He pulled me aside and he goes, all right, Tice, like, let's have a look at how these areas of your life are playing out. Have you guys done much of that together, that balance between psychology and running and the other areas of your life, which sort of all lead into running performance?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because it just clicked a couple of things that you've said about how probably like my last 12 months I've come really good, and um, there are a couple of 5K races last track season. There was the Box Hill Burn 5K and then the National 5K. And and yeah, the Box Hill Burn was by no means was a bad race, but it wasn't quite what I wanted. And Adam called and said, how are you feeling? And I was just like, Adam, like, what's going on? And I spiraled. It was a bit of a mess. And then 10 days later, did the National 5K. I ran even worse. And I wasn't coping with how badly I was running. And so Adam was like, hey, look, like, let's go see someone. So he recommended a sports psychologist, Chris, who I've been seeing, on and off for the last 12 months. And again, Chris works closely with Adam, so Adam's in the loop about everything that's going on. And yeah, it's something that I've always known is important, but probably haven't quite tapped into as well as I have. And so I think, the last 12 months performances speaks for itself really. And that, that's when I've started seeing Chris and started working through, how I feel about running and sorting out, again, like you said, every other area of my life as well, so that it's not only making me the best athlete I can be, but the best person that I can be to deal with like whatever challenges get thrown my way. And I think some of my best races as well have happened after I've had really crappy weeks. So for example, the Launceston 10K back in June, I was in hospital the weekend before that. So it's just like I wasn't sure I was going to make it through the race, and then I just stood on the start line, and instead of being terrified that, oh man, I've had the worst lead up, it was, well, let's see what we can do, and if I get to 7K and I have to drop out, like, that's okay. And then that it's really freeing. And so just having these little strategies to work with things that come along the way have probably contributed massively to just having those really consistent performances. And by no means it doesn't work all the time. Sometimes I still rock up and I have a terrible race, but I'm just better equipped to deal with it. Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome, man. So obviously just that freedom that came with the fact that there probably wasn't too many high expectations on yourself in Launceston, which was probably, I don't know if in my eyes, I think, was that your big breakout race? Because I know there was a couple of lead up races to that performance, which were pretty incredible as well. But I remember seeing, was that the one where did you beat Gregson and you beat, was it Jack Bruce? I'm trying to remember.
Oh, that one was the Bernie 10. I had a couple of 10K wins in.
Sure.
Yeah, so Lonnie was in June and then Bernie was in October, I reckon. But I was lucky enough.
So it was all around the same sort of time. I was getting confused.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask you because, obviously, there's a lot of freedom. I know that feeling of just being able to get out there and run well when there's not like the world of expectation on your shoulders. But what were a couple of other things that Chris helped you with? Was there anything that is Chris? It's a weird, like not weird, but it's a guy's or a girl's name. So am I talking about a guy?
It's a guy, yeah.
A guy. Yeah, I didn't want to start saying her if Chris is if Chris is a man. So what were a couple of things that he was walking you through?
One that we've spoken about recently. We spoke about it on the morning of the National 3K, which happened about a month ago. And I was sort of, saying to Chris, like, hey, I'm feeling really good. Training's going really well. I feel really good this morning, but I still know there's the potential that I, get out there and things don't go to plan. And Chris used the analogy, like, sometimes when you're baking a cake, like, you throw all the ingredients in and you measure them perfectly and you've got the cake mix there perfect. But when you go to bake the cake, sometimes there's things that, are inside your control and outside of your control. Like, sometimes you might turn the heat up too much and then you burn the cake a little bit, or, maybe the power goes out and then your oven switches off. And so there's things inside and outside your control which determine the outcome of the cake. And that was just really freeing again, because I could control the things that I could control, and the things outside of my control, sure, they'll affect the outcome of the race, but that's okay. And then something which I haven't discussed with Chris, but I realized as well, was that using that analogy also made me realize that if running is like making a cake, like I'm not the cake and I'm not the race. And so something that I realized as well is that like racing is something that I do, not something that I am, which again is probably, you know, a bit deep and something that really only clicked recently, but it's so easy when, you know, you're surrounded in this bubble of running, and you know, you check your Instagram and it's all just running, and then it's so easy to think that like I am the runner and that my value and self-worth is based on, you know, the outcome of these races. And yeah, I realized like, wow, you know, I'm not the race. And so I could take a step back from that. And again, I don't get it perfect every time, but it's just nice to have something like that to fall back onto, and that there's other areas of my life as well, which, yeah, you know, just as fulfilling as well. Yeah.
Really well said. That's a really great analogy, man. It is incredible. I remember I actually spoke about this on the podcast last week, and you just mentioned like my whole world was running. Like I wasn't running as fast as you, but I had every intention to. Do you know what I mean? Like I was out there, I was doing the training, and I was training. I may as well have been like the best of the best in athletes in the way that I trained. Like that's how much time I was dedicating to it. But one of the things that I was really aware of was if I had a bad race, my mood for that week would just be down in the dumps, and I'd be flat, and probably a little bit like you after, you know, a couple of those races you had before you started to see Chris. And man, one of the things, and this is something I wish I was sort of told when I was a runner, is once I finished competitive running in, I think it was 2014. And I reckon the next 12 months, I was so boxed into the world of running that like, if you ran fast, in my eyes, you were just a legend. If you ran slow, I was like, man, whatever. I didn't really have all the time in the world. But then you got out of running, man. And it was so funny. I remember going to people in 2013, Ryan Gregson was at his best. And I would speak to someone outside the running world. And I was like, oh yeah, do you know Ryan Gregson, 1500 meter runner? They're like, dude, I've got no idea who you're talking about. And I was like, yeah, dude, he's the best 1500 meter runners Australia's ever seen. You don't know, I've never heard of him. And for me, like it was so free, and that's not to discredit Ryan, because obviously in the scene he's incredible. Like you don't need to justify that. I say that more as a lesson to myself, where I put these people on a pedestal based on how fast they were running, based on the PBs that they had, and outside of the running world, no one really knew him. Whereas if I was in a race with him, I'd be intimidated just to be in the locker room. I'd be intimidated to see. I'd get nervous if I met him. I put him on this massive pedestal, which he probably deserved in terms of what he had achieved. But for me, I left the sport and I had these conversations, and I was like, man, there's so many other things outside of running that are interesting and that you can find meaning in. Yeah. Whereas I think a lot of us do make that mistake, like you said, where we base our quality as a person on how fast we ran last week or how fast our particular personal besties is. So I think the fact that you've sort of got a grasp of that when you're not even at your peak yet is a really powerful thing. It's something that'd be cool to come back to in the future. Is that something that you sort of like, can you relate with what I'm saying a little more there?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And again, yeah, like I said before, like there's moments where you don't, you know, like you sort of forget about it. And then again, it's so easy to get, like, of course, who isn't flat after they have a bad race or don't perform quite how they want to and whatever they're doing. But it's just about knowing, well, okay, that's not who I am. It doesn't have to tie me down. But yeah, again, you know, I've had a couple of, you know, races that didn't quite go to plan this season. And again, it's been an effort to just go, okay, no, this isn't who I am. But again, you can eventually get there. At least you've got that idea or that goal that you can aim for, rather than not knowing where to go next and it all being a bit aimless. Yeah.
I feel like it's so freeing, that idea, or just that one liner, like, I'm not this race. It's such a powerful thing. I heard a bloke a while ago. It was actually I can't remember who it was, but he said, don't let the good times go to your head and don't let the bad times go to your heart, because a lot of us will go out and we'll have a good race and we'll strut around like we're the kings. And then the reverse is true when we have a bad day. It's like, it's nice to find an almost neutral ground to go, hey, it was a great race. It was a good breakthrough. I've been working hard. Great. Let's just keep going. I'm not saying don't celebrate it, but then also on those bad days, don't bury your head in the sand and not want to see anyone and not want to go out and train. And I feel like, because I'm a fairly emotional guy, man, and like a lot of the time I would have a bad race and I'd call Adam and I'd be like, oh, everything's broken. He's like, mate, shut up. Like you've been sick or whatever it was. You'd offer a little bit of practical guidance. Whereas, it's amazing how much of a swagger you can get in your step after a good race, but the reverse is also true. It's interesting, man. I think it relates to every area of our life. I'm not sure. This is actually something I'm keen to talk to you about, because Adam mentioned that you might have had a little bit of a dabble in this industry, but the stand-up comedy scene is my new big focus, my new big love. And I went out and I did 2 gigs last night. One of them was horrific. The other one was good. And it's amazing, man. At the start, when I bombed, it was the same experience as running a bad race. But then when I did really well, it was the same experience as having a good race. But what is true is now my Instagram's no longer filled just with runners, but there's a whole heap of comedians. And that same little battle, it goes on in your mind. You'll see someone who's a couple of years ahead or maybe a little bit better naturally or whatever else. And it's hard not to, just comparison's a massive thief of joy in any industry, isn't it? It's just nice to be able to focus on your own journey and go, all right, as long as I'm seeing improvement in my own performance. Not to go too far off track, I wanted to ask you about that. So what was Adam talking about when he was telling me about your stand-up comedy credentials? Because he reckons that you planned a gig or you've done a gig or I had a story.
So look, I'm not I'm not as brave as you at this stage, where I haven't actually gone and done a gig. That the idea of that is mildly terrifying. It's something I've got to work towards. But probably about 3 years ago, I had a mini midlife crisis, and I thought, you know what, I want to be a stand-up comedian, and I just want to do like one gig, tick it off the bucket list. And so I got a mate, and I was like, they do these open mic nights down in down in the city. Do you want to come along to one of them? And I wanted to suss it out and sort of see how it all worked. And then I went along and watched, and I was like, oh geez, these guys are pretty funny. And then I went away, tried to write my own material, tried it on a few people, and realized, oh geez, I'm not very funny. I'm going to throw this on the back burner for a bit. And then anyway, I think it was about last year. One of my friends, for one of her uni assignments at Adelaide Uni, were putting together like a festival of some sorts, or a small show. Her role was find people to do performances, whatever it was. And she said would you want to do a stand-up comedy show? And my knee-jerk reaction was, yeah, absolutely. And so I was like, lock me in. Went away. Again, same sort of thing. I'm like, actually, I'm not as funny as I like to think I am.
Me either, just for what it's worth.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure you go all right. And then thank goodness the that side of her assignment got handled onto someone else, and I wasn't locked in. I was honestly sweating bullets. It was the biggest relief. So it's still something that I definitely want to do, but I think maybe a bit more life experience. And then, maybe when I have an actual midlife crisis, that's something I can do.
It's funny you say that. Sorry, go on, man. You go.
Oh, I was just saying, I just love watching stand-up comedy. Like my YouTube algorithm, Netflix, it's all just like I love Ricky Gervais, and I think people like him are just naturally funny and then very clever. I just you sort of see that and you're like, oh, I want to be like that. But then just the effort to get there is, tough going.
Oh my gosh, man. Dude, next time when you're in Melbourne, if you're up for it, send me a message and we'll go out, and you don't have to do it. You could go out and just we'll check out a couple of open mic gigs, because there's some good ones around here. But if you happen to have 5 minutes, I'll sneak your name down on the list as well and surprise you. I got a mate in one night. He just got tagged in a Facebook post saying that he was on the list. And he was like, dude, I don't want to do it. And he's like, well, your name's on the list, so we're going to go down together. So I might have to do that and broaden your resume with a couple more stand-up comedy gigs. But that's interesting, man. Yeah, because Adam said I had to ask you about your stand-up comedy credentials. So I wanted to know what the story was there. I like your taste, man. Ricky Gervais is he's the man. I think he's got a new show coming out this year.
Oh right, yeah, I'm not on top of that, but yeah, the more content out there for me to just binge watch, the better, I reckon. So,
Do you run with podcast or anything in your ears when you're out on an easy run? Do you like to listen to anything? Are you a podcast man, a comedy man, or do you just sort of like the sound of silence and footsteps?
most runs that I do, I don't have anything in my ears. Just yeah, anything up to an hour, I find I can sort of do by myself. This track's even like sort of, heading away for races and stuff. Um, like for example, this weekend, you fly back on the Sunday and you don't get to do your long run with your mates. So then it's sort of, I'm long running by myself and I'm pretty tired and cranky from the plane flight. And so, yeah, I'll either throw like music or podcasts in. Funnily enough, like the podcasts that I listen to probably line up a bit with what we've spoken about today. So, like, first of all, like I love the Hamish and Andy podcast.
They're the kings, man. They're so good.
Listen to it religiously. I've subscribed, so I listen to all their old radio shows as well. I go to bed listening to Hamish and Andy. Like it's like, yeah, that gets me through a run, and I've got a couple of episodes which I've said they just get me laughing every time. So like, doesn't matter if it's the 100th time I'm listening to it. It's still good quality. And then the other one which I've got onto recently, there's the High Performance podcast with a couple of British guys. I've only listened to a couple of episodes, but again, Adam recommended one of them, and yeah, they're really good. A lot of the stuff that they talk about, they interview high profile sports, like athletes or just people at the top of their game and how they've got there. And there's always some really good takeaways from their episodes there, whether it's about gratitude or mindfulness or the state of flow that they're in when they're at their peak performance. And I find those ones I have to be quite mentally switched on to get the takeaways. But then Hamish and Andy, it's like I can be almost a zombie going out for my long runs, and I still get a giggle every now and again. So,
they're the kings, man. My brother-in-law is obsessed with. I am too, to be honest. They're so good, and they just seem like good blokes as well. Actually, you might be interested. I don't know how recent it is. Do you know Hugh Van Seilenberg?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just saw yesterday a little clip that came up, The Imperfects. I think Hamish was on Hugh's podcast, so I'm pretty keen to listen to that one. But right. I don't know if you're a fan of the boys by themselves, just Hamish or just Andy. But if you are, might be worth one checking out, because it sort of combines a couple of things that we've spoken about. I can imagine it'd be an interesting one. How are you feeling about this weekend? How you did you say you're racing 1500?
Yeah, that's right. This weekend. It's a bit of an unknown. So I did the mile at the Melbourne Track Classic, and then I did the 1500 a bit later at the Box Hill Classic, and those were the couple of races which I just misfired a little bit for different reasons. And then I was just, again, I sort of fell into that trap of, I'm not running well. And then last weekend was the National 5K, which again, a bit longer. I raced really well. I executed it about as well as I could. Came fourth, which is the best I've come in a nationals race. So, I sort of got back on the horse. And so, again, this race tomorrow is sort of, I don't know how I'll go, which I'm comfortable with, just because, my last couple of 15s haven't been that great. But, that 5K went okay. Ooh, excuse me. And so, Matt Clark's going to be racing as well. So it's a bit comforting having one of my training partners there. That'll make a difference. And I know I can run fast. It's just, let's see if tomorrow's the day to do it or not.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Awesome. What's your current PB for 1500?
341. Jeez. The state record in South Australia is 339.
It's in danger. It's in danger, man. If all the things come together, I've got no doubt you can run faster than 339. It's just, I know what you mean. It's just, you got to see things come together, and so that's exciting, man. I reckon that record's under a lot of threat. But Clarkey would be around the mark as well, wouldn't he? I don't know what he's run for 1500, but would you guys be shoulder to shoulder, or have one of you got a slight edge over that distance?
Yeah, so Clarkie's PB is 3:42, so
Okay.
I've just got the edge on him there. But then I think every 15 race that we've done, he's just beaten me. So this season I've started to I knocked him off in a 5K on the track, and I edged him out in the national 3K only just. So like we're really neck and neck when it comes to races on the flat. So yeah, I'm keen to just battle it out with him at the very least, even if I have a stinker. I reckon hopefully I can knock him off.
Yeah. Awesome, man. No, that's nice. That's exciting. I'm looking forward to that one as well. Yeah, I watched your national 5K the other day, man. I thought it was an unreal race by not like even the whole race, but just the way you ran. You did. I feel like you see certain athletes come through, and obviously your progression over the last couple of years, you've won some good races now, but you look as though you believe you just completely belong in that scene. Like to see you just running against the likes of sort of Big Rambo and a couple of these guys who've been on the international stage now for a few years. I get excited when I see an athlete approaching a race the way you're approaching races, because I'm like, okay, I feel like there's big breakthroughs coming. So is that sort of the gut feeling? Because whenever I had a breakthrough race or whenever I had a breakthrough performance, it always amazed me initially when I was running against guys who used to smash me. I remember when I ran my 3K PB back in 2010. There's a couple of guys behind me where I was like, hey, I didn't realize I could tear you up. And then it changed my approach it changed my mindset when I got onto the start line in the future, because I was like, oh, well, I've beaten these guys before. I'm at least in the race. But has there been like a transition period to you looking at a bloke like Rambo going, man, like he's a great athlete, now looking at a bloke like Rambo and go, all right, tactically, how do I beat this guy? Because that's sort of the conversation that it looks like must be happening in your head. Because as I watched, I was like, oh, no, he's there to win this thing. Like he knows he can win it if he runs, to his highest ability. And as you said, you finished fourth, which was unreal, but fourth in an unreal quality race.
Yeah, no, thanks. That's it's interesting. Like heading into I don't know what it was, but heading into the national 3K, which again was about a month ago, was the first time that I looked at a field and like that was like really good quality. And I turned to Adam and said, like, I think I can win this. I'm in with a chance. And he was like, brilliant. That's what I want to hear from you. And obviously, yeah, I didn't. I came fifth, but I ran a massive PB, and I think like again having Adam as my coach, like the race plan that he gives me, I know will always put me in the best position to go and win. And so, yeah, like Adam will give me like a race plan that, there's plan A and then, a few little tweaks about, if this move happens, you got to do this, but really, and this is going to put you in the best position to win. And then, so when I'm on the start line, I'm not, again, it's sort of like that process versus outcome. Someone like Matt Ramsden or Sam McEntee, I know that they're a better quality athlete than I am. And just like their track record and, what they've achieved in the past, like I'm well aware of that. But I'm just like, well, if I can execute my plan as well as I can, I'm going to be in with a shot to knock them off. And so, again, like you sort of look at the race the other week and, yeah, I didn't beat him. And probably, 9 times out of 10 or 99 times out of 100, at this stage, I'm probably not going to beat him. But it's just like, well, yeah, why not give it a crack? Let's just see if it's their off day, or let's see if I'm on fire. And yeah, like some days, it comes off, and other days it doesn't, and it goes terribly wrong, and you go backwards. But yeah, like again, like it just ultimately it boils down to like running's fun, and so like if I can beat as many people, or claim as many scouts as I can, like that's stuff that you tell your grandkids, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And even the other night, I hit the front probably a lap earlier than me and Adam had sort of talked about, and just because there was someone tripped and we all sort of got shuffled through, and I found myself at the front last. It took me about 200, 300 meters. I was just like, oh shit, I'm at the front here. Like this isn't what I want. It's too early. But then I just like relaxed and like settled into my rhythm. I was like, okay, like stick to the plan. And then after about 300 meters of worrying that I was at the front, I remember thinking like, I'm at the front of the national 5K with 4 laps to go. Like, how good is this? Like, let's make the most of it. And again, I got out kicked at the end, but yeah, it's still a pretty cool memory to have.
Man, what was that last lap running?
So I think Matt and Sam ran it in about 53 seconds.
I thought it was 53. Like, that's such an insane, it's such a, like, in fairness, I'm not saying in 12 months you're not going to be able to do that, but if you're going to get out kicked with a 53 last lap. It's not a bad way to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I ran 58 seconds for the last lap, and I watched it back and I got made to look silly. Like, it was I looked like I was going backwards. Like, that was really impressive top end speed. And in the call room afterwards, I was sitting next to Sam McEntee, and I was just like how do you run that fast? Like, I just couldn't wrap my head around it. Like, I thought I was going all out, and he was just like, I've been training a bit longer than you have. And I was like, it's true, actually. So
it is true. Yeah, it's a good point. I'm glad he played the humble card, but it is true.
Yeah, rather than saying, oh, I'm just real good. Like,
I'm so good at running.
Yeah. Yeah. But I suppose that's the other thing as well, is that, like, I'm 22. Like, I'm obviously not a junior anymore, but like, I'm definitely not at my physical peak. So again, it's that opportunity of like, well, I can't do it yet, but there's no reason why I can't in 5 or 6 years time. So let's work towards that. Yeah.
Awesome, man. No, that's unreal, dude. I honestly could talk to you for another hour and a half. I got my eyes on the clock though, because I was so glad you said that we could do 11:30, because my wife's pregnant with our second kid. She's got her scan today. So I said, all right, I'm going to be the best husband you can imagine. We'll leave. We're on a tight schedule. So I've just looked at the clock and realized I'm probably going to have to rock and roll. Otherwise, she might be raising that kid as a single mum, and I'll be kicked out of the house.
Well, congratulations on the second child.
Thank you, man. Thank you, brother. But dude, honestly, I would love to do a round 2 with you where we can touch base, and maybe in another 6 months or something after the rest of the season's done, I'll shoot you another message. And if you're keen to jump back on, we'll do it. Because, mate, as I said, there's so many other things I'd love to be able to tap into with you. But for round 1, let's hang up the gloves there. We'll say done and dusted. And I'll shoot you a message in 6 months and see if you're keen for a round 2.
No, that sounds brilliant. Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me on. It's been fun to chat.
Oh man, it's just so good, because I there's certain conversations you have in Instagram inboxes where you're like, all right, I don't want to be that bloke who just keeps messaging him if he's politely trying to say he's not interested. But the fact that we could get it done. I'm currently in a conversation with 1500 meter. You'll know who he is, but for those listening, Nick Willis, the New Zealand 1500 runner. And about 3 weeks ago, he goes, yeah, mate, I'll come on. Looking forward to it. And I said, all right, how does next week sound? And he goes, hey, message me in 2 weeks, because the next sort of 2 weeks are flat out. And I messaged him, and it's been unseen. So I sent him one more, still unseen. So I'm like, all right, I'm just going to have to hold up a few months, because otherwise I'm just going to develop this reputation of being the bloke who I just keep like a creepy teenage kid trying to hit on his girlfriend, sneaking into inboxes that I'm not welcome in.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you can only shoot your shot and go from there, I guess.
All right, brother. Oh, best of luck this weekend, man. I'm really looking forward to seeing the result, and I'm kind of got my fingers crossed to see that South Australian record go down. But hey, 48 hours, we'll know.
Cheers. Yeah, no, thanks, mate. Appreciate it.